Dangerous Christmas Memories by Sarah Hamaker. A witness in jeopardy and a killer on the loose. Hiding in witness protection is the only option for Priscilla Anderson after witnessing a murder. Then Lucas Langsdale shows up, claiming to be her husband right when a hitman finds her. With partial amnesia, she has no memory of her marriage or the killer's identity. Yet she will have to put her faith in Luke if they both want to live to see another day. Now an excerpt from Dangerous Christmas Memories by Sarah Hamaker. Priscilla Anderson set the blow-dryer on high and aimed the heat at Nancy's damp hair with one hand, a round brush in her other hand to smooth the slightly curly hair. Thank goodness the noise of the dryer meant Priscilla didn't have to pay attention to her client's incessant chatter. Today, Nancy gushed about her recent trip to the Bahamas with her third husband over Thanksgiving. As she straightened Nancy's hair, Priscilla concentrated on keeping her hands steady enough that Nancy wouldn't notice she wasn't her usual self. Priscilla clicked the dryer to a lower setting and began shaping the long bob to curl gently under Nancy's cheekbone. She sucked in a deep breath, letting it out slowly in an attempt to soothe her jitters as she sent up a silent prayer. Lord, please keep me calm and safe from the man I think has been following me. Turning off the hairdryer, she was relieved to see Nancy had her attention on her phone. Good. No small talk necessary for a bit longer. After touching the surface of the curling iron quickly to judge its heat, Priscilla put the finishing touches on Nancy's hair. All done. Priscilla exchanged the curling iron for a handheld mirror, holding the latter to Nancy to view the haircut and style as she swiveled the chair around for her client to view her reflection. The older woman admired her hair in the mirror. Perfection, like always. I told my yoga class to ask for you if they wanted a world-class haircut at a good price. Nancy smiled as Priscilla removed the salon cape with a snap. You should move to one of those upscale places. Your talents are hidden here. Priscilla shook her head as she walked her client to the front of Snippy's, a chain of discount haircuts. I appreciate your kind words, but this suits me just fine. Nancy sighed. You are too modest for your own good, but then again, I'm happy to pay only $25 for an $80 haircut. Priscilla ran Nancy's credit card and handed her the slip to sign, glad that her hands had regained their steadiness. Last time, you said you looked like $1,000,000. I must be slipping. The other woman laughed as she gave the receipt back to Priscilla with a generous tip scrawled on the bottom. See you next month. As Nancy exited the salon tucked into a strip mall, Priscilla caught a glimpse of a blond man in his late 20s, near her own age, lounging at one of the outdoor tables in front of the next-door coffee shop. She stepped closer to the floor-to-ceiling window, careful to keep her body partially hidden behind a decorated artificial Christmas tree positioned to the left of the front door. Unease coiled in her stomach like a strand of hair wrapping around a roller, tightening with a jerk as she recalled seeing the tall man behind her in a checkout line at the grocery store last night. She had also seen him somewhere else before. But where? She closed her eyes briefly to pull up the memory. Ah, yes. Jogging by her apartment building Friday morning when she left for work. Now, 3 days later, here he was again, outside her place of employment. Fairfax, Virginia wasn't that big a city that she could attribute the sightings to mere coincidence. Fishing her phone from her apron pocket, she surreptitiously snapped several photos of the man as he sipped from a cup while gazing down at his smartphone. Heart pounding, Priscilla moved away from the window and through the salon toward the small break room next to the back door. With her next appointment in 15 minutes, she had time to call Mac. Everything okay? U.S. Marshal James Mac McIntyre's voice had a sharp edge to it that Priscilla hadn't heard before. The married marshal had become like an older brother to her since becoming her point of contact 3 years ago. I think someone's following me. Priscilla paced the length of the empty room. Tell me more. She relayed a description of the man. The first time I noticed him, he was jogging by my apartment building. Last night, he was behind me in the checkout line at the grocery store. Now today, he's outside the salon at the coffee shop next door. Perfectly legitimate actions, but something tells me it's not accidental. That he meant to be in those places because I was there. I managed to take a couple photos of him, but it was through a window, so it might not be clear. I texted them to you before I called. Let me pull him up. Waiting while Mac accessed the photos, Priscilla concentrated on taking deep, controlled breaths to slow her racing heart. No sense in hyperventilating over what might be a coincidence. Her gut screamed that there was no way this guy just happened to show up exactly where she was at least 3 times in under a week. I emailed them to our tech guys to see what they can do to enhance them and trace his identity. He hasn't tried to approach you? No. She kneaded the tight muscles in the back of her neck. He's been kind of lurking in the background. She blew out a breath. You know I don't see danger behind every bush. He's following me. That much I'm sure of. Do you think he's connected with our friend? Mac voiced the very question that had occurred to Priscilla. If he is, I don't know why I'm still alive. She blinked back sudden tears at how comfortable she had been in her life here. That, for a while, she'd managed to live like a normal person. If you called normal not being able to date or have close friends. If she stayed in witness protection much longer, she was afraid she'd never be comfortable getting close to anyone, given how superficial she had to keep all her relationships. With the very real potential of having to relocate at a moment's notice, she had grown used to her own company. But with the trial coming up, she'd begun to let herself think of what life could hold beyond witness protection, and that had heightened her sense of loneliness. I can't believe I let my guard down enough to not notice someone was following me. Priscilla, don't beat yourself up. It happens to most people in the witness protection program. Mac's gentle tone soothed her. We see it all the time in those who've been in WITSEC for more than a few years, and you've been in for 7. She centered her thoughts back on the problem at hand, grateful for his reassurance. What should I do? For now, nothing. You know the best way to stay alive is to not panic, and any deviation from your normal routine could tip him off that you're onto him. Until we know what his agenda is, take extra precautions. Have your go bag ready and wait to hear from me. I'm headed into a briefing about our friend in 5 minutes, but then I'll come get you. Okay. I have clients scheduled through 6 today. I only hope I won't mess up their haircuts because of my nerves. I know I don't have to say this, but please be careful. The seriousness of the way Mac delivered the platitude alerted Priscilla to just how shaken her handler was about the danger to her. I will. Priscilla said goodbye just as a bell tone on her phone's alarm rang to let her know she had a few minutes before her 2 o'clock appointment. She ducked into the single-stall restroom and locked the door. She needed to calm her inner turmoil, or she'd never get through the rest of her shift. Washing her hands, she gazed at her reflection in the mirror. It had been just over 7 years since she witnessed the shootings that had thrown her into the U.S. Federal Witness Protection Program. She had worked hard to change her appearance and her mannerisms. No longer did she bite her nails when nervous. Her formerly blonde hair lay hidden underneath a rich brown hair coloring that she recently streaked with purple and turquoise. Her hair, which she used to keep short and spiky, now hung past her shoulders. Today she'd twisted it up into 2 side buns higher on the crown of her head than the typical Princess Leia hairstyle. She looked nothing like the terrified cocktail waitress who'd hidden underneath a skirted serving cart in the kitchen of the Las Vegas Last Chance Hotel and Casino and seen through a slit in the fabric a man with a gun and silencer shoot 3 people in the head. The events of that night still had a hazy film on them, meaning that she had trouble recalling her exact movements or why she ended up hiding in the kitchen. But the memories of the shooting itself had been seared into her memory. The news that the hitman, Mason Culvert, had escaped custody while in the hospital after an emergency appendectomy had shaken her to the core. With Culvert's trial scheduled to begin just before Christmas, Priscilla feared the blonde man could be connected to Culvert. Leaving the bathroom, she walked to the front of the store, passing 3 other stylists in various stages of cutting or styling their clients' hair. The blonde man stood by the register, talking to the owner, Sandra Yu. Priscilla froze. Her pulse kicked into high gear. Before she could slip out the back door and contact Mac again, Sandra turned and spotted her. "Priscilla?" Priscilla considered ignoring the summons and bolting. But the blonde man had had numerous opportunities to hurt her if he'd wanted to do so. That lessened her fear enough to allow her curiosity to pique as to why he'd been following her, and what he was doing in the salon. "Yes, Sandra?" Priscilla pasted a smile on her face and joined them. "This is Mr. Long, your 2 o'clock. Sandra smiled at Mr. Long. "Priscilla's one of our best stylists." "I've heard." His voice triggered a hidden awareness. She'd heard him speak before, but before the memory could resurface fully, the impression vanished. Instead, Priscilla took a deep breath and gestured toward her station. "Right this way, Mr. Long." Cutting his hair would give her the perfect opportunity to question him under the guise of small talk, and wielding sharp scissors would offer some protection if his intentions weren't on the up and up. With another prayer for God's protection, she settled her client in the salon chair.